I wanted to talk to folks today about some of the responses I've gotten on some of my videos, which aren't all that much. It's not like I've gone viral on any of these, but I want to talk about, for example, a response that I got on my anti-science video, and I got a response from somebody named Gracie that I wanted to say thank you for, even though you called me a fool in your response. Uh, Thank you for being so directly to the point. You spoke directly to the point, and I thought that was a very nice thing to do, and it was a very thought-provoking few comments that you made, and there are thoughts that I've had myself in some cases. I wanted to contest you on a few of the points. But she said that science is a totalitarian type of a system that's that's bringing about an end to individuality in the modern world. And I think the problem here that you have is you're confusing your categories. I mean, it's the political system that you may have a gripe with, or the economic system that you might have a gripe with, but it isn't necessarily science itself. You said that science is a means without an end, or that then you put down knowledge with a question mark. Well, that is the mean. That is the end that is aimed at with the means called science is knowledge. Knowledge of the natural world. And let me say that to question technology and science and say that they're no good is sort of like cursing against the rain when the thunder and the lightning start going and the rain is falling and you step outside and say, "Stop it! This is so unfair. It's so unfair that it's raining." Well, that's a rather pointless thing to do because you live in the world, and in the world is going to rain, and the rain is going to happen, and there's really nothing you can do about it. And the same goes for science. To unlearn the scientific world is an impossibility. Man has progressed and progressed and progressed and progressed, and it may, it's possible that we may destroy the earth and cause our mass extinction because of science, but maybe not. I mean, and you can't stop it from happening if it's going to happen anyway. I mean, the thing is, you have to judge the wisdom of individuals who are leading us in certain directions with science. I know I've seen a lot of science fiction movies, the Blade Runner or what's another one, the end of the world scenarios that they have, the doomsday scenarios that we discover some terrible virus that we make genetically that wipes out the human race, or we blow each other up. And there's always that possibility, but we've been going along for a pretty long time with the ability to blow each other up and haven't done it yet. And one thing you can't do is you can't put, as they say, you can't put the genie back in the bottle. You can't cause every human being, which is quite a few now, and I made a mistake. It said trillion last time. It's 6.5 billion people in the world, and they're all learning a little bit, and some of them, a good number of them, billions of them, are learning the state of the art in science. No, they're not going to forget how to do science, science works. It's just the way things go. You're not going to be able. I sometimes wish that I had a time machine. I think it's an unfair world. I wish I had a time machine that I could go in and go back to 1000 BC and live in the world that was in existence in 1000 BC before all this technology and science and population explosion of human beings happened. And there's no question in my mind it was a more beautiful world back then. We were more in stasis with the environment. But that stasis came at a price, I point out, which is pain and suffering and premature death. I personally am a person that would not exist if I were born 100 years earlier, because it was modern medical science when I was a baby that saved my life on several occasions. And I don't want to go into it, but without question, I would have not lived even 1 year if it hadn't been for modern science carrying me through. So, it's the world of maybes is what you're wishing for. Maybe if we didn't have this, but we do. The world of maybe is not in existence. And to deny reality, which is what you're asking when you say you want to deny science, is ridiculous too. If you go to school and they teach you 2 plus 2 equals 4, and just out of pride you just fold your arms and say it equals Zibnit. I say, no, Gracie, it equals 4. No, I say Zibnit. You say 4, I say Zibnit. Well, what is Zibnit? Well, Zibnit is a bouncing ball inside of my head, see? And that's what 2 plus 2 equals, and that's what I say. And you can say all you want, 2 plus 2 equals 4, but, well, no, it doesn't work like that. 2 plus 2 equals 4, meaning 2 of these together is this. That's all it means. It's reality. You cannot deny reality just because you don't like it. And that's what science is. It's reality. I mean, and people, I might tell you, people do not have faith in science. I tried to explain this before. Science is a method of observation. It is a means without an end, sort of, but the end is knowledge. I mean, you say it's a mean without an end. I say it's a mean with an end, which is knowledge, right? And it's not a belief. If something goes and destroys the current paradigm, and the paradigm must fall. And all scientists, there's been occasions of this throughout the history of science when they believe that Newtonian physics was followed by people in all the physics labs and all the major physicists, teachers, and everything. And then along came Einstein with his Einsteinian relativist physics. And it was destroying the Newtonian paradigm of the ether of space and the all objects move at a constant rate and all that. And when you were looking at the relativity of objects moving in space and so forth, time and space and motion being part of the same function, that was very difficult for those who did have a little bit of faith in the Newtonian system, which still has some credence to it, but certain parts of the Newtonian physics had to fall, and it took till the whole generation died off before it was accepted on a level that it is today, because some people did have some faith in that science, but in the overall picture, faith doesn't hold up in science. There's no faith in science. It's the conclusion based on the evidence as is currently understood. And if it changes, if the evidence changes, new evidence comes along, then they have to throw away the old theories and they have to throw away the old beliefs. They're not beliefs, they're theories. And that's hard for some people to understand. Now, let me just also say very briefly, if I might, with regard to when I point out to you that if you don't like the scientific world, you can withdraw from the scientific world. And that is pretty true. Nobody really wants to make that much of a sacrifice, even though they say so. There is, what was I say? Your examples where you said the Indians that were out technological advancements by the white man coming from Europe, and they wanted to fight against the technological world, you said, and they had to use the guns and the weapons of technology to fight against the technological Europeans. Well, that's making the assumption that Indians don't like technology. No, maybe they just didn't like the white people. I mean, there are I've known some people who were 100% Native Americans, two in particular I can think of that were friends of mine, who were embracing technology fully. One was an auto mechanic, the other one worked in video. He was a videographer, and they embraced technology, and they were Indians. I mean, it wasn't necessarily technology that the Indians were fighting against. And let me also point that it's an interesting point that you make, because a lot of technology advances in warfare, unfortunately, but that's where a lot of the major efforts to in science and technology have been pinpointed toward warfare, and the Indians found that out pretty quickly. Now, I just want to say in conclusion that I appreciate your feedback, even though I don't agree with you. It proves to me that there's even a third, or rather a fourth version of anti-science out there, which is an anti-science that thinks that science is related somehow to the industrial world. And it is, in a way. I mean, the industrial world feeds off of the discoveries of science. But don't forget that there is a science of ecology, the understanding that we live within an environment and an ecological system, which is something that a lot of the capitalists and the industrialists deny all the time. But the scientists keep saying, yes, this is real, that we have to live and think about our place within the environment and try to maintain some sort of a stasis. That is a scientific concept. So don't think that that science is all about the industrialists. It's also the industrialists always complain about the scientists too, because they have this environmental science that they're pushing all the time. So let me just say that in closing, and I appreciate your feedback.